This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm Anine Dormal, standing in for Eben Janssen. The show is live and broadcast from our studios in Auckland Park. We are also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. Now, KwaZulu-Natal is facing severe drought, and today we look at what government is doing to address the problem. Then we look at what South Africa can do to see a marked improvement in both numeracy and literacy performance in our classrooms. Africa's first private satellite will also be launched next year, and we introduce you to the very young minds behind that project. We also look at what the outcome of the CSIR's annual Sustainability Week was. But first, let's take a look at the day's news. Most mine workers in Marikana say an international court must probe the events of August 2012. Lawyers for the injured and arrested Marikana miners are looking at the possibility of filing civil claims against the government. Miners and families affected by the violence that claimed 44 lives at Marikana nearly 3 years ago met their legal representatives yesterday. This followed the release of the Farnham Commission of Inquiry's report last week.
In looking at the options that have to be done, we have to say, okay, there are domestic remedies that would be available to the clients, such as the civil actions that they have said should be taken, whether there's room for private criminal prosecutions, the civil actions against specific individuals, civil actions against state parties.
Meanwhile, the DA has called for the dismissal of former Police Minister Nathi Mthethwa, saying he was the political head presiding over the department during the Marikana tragedy. The party has made the call despite the Marikana report clearing Mthethwa from any wrongdoing. DA leader Musi Maimane says Mthethwa and Ria Piecha should be held accountable for the killing of 44 people at Lonmin Mine in August 2012. The second round of wage negotiations in the gold sector are set to resume today. Last week, unions tabled their demand, while gold producers tabled the principles of an economic and social sustainability compact. Labour unions criticized the Chamber of Mines for tabling financial statements, which they say were riddled with errors during wage talks in the gold mining sector. Unions want entry-level wage increases of up to 80%. It's been confirmed that at least 30 British nationals were among the 38 people killed by a gunman at a holiday resort in St. Lucia. An international investigation has begun into the attack in South that has carried out by a university graduate linked to the Islamic State militant group. In Burundi, the African Union says it will not provide observers for the parliamentary election today. This as conditions for a free and fair vote have not been met. Burundi has been in turmoil since April, when President Pierre Nkurunziza said he would seek for a third term. The move triggered protests and an attempted coup. Opposition parties are boycotting today's vote and the presidential election on the 15th of next month in protest at Nkurunziza's move, which they say is unconstitutional. Greek banks will be closed for the week, and tourists have been warned to take enough cash for the duration of their stay. The country's financial crisis deepened at the weekend when the bailout talks between the government and foreign leaders broke down. The European Central Bank then froze funding support to Greece's banks, and the government announced the closing of banks last night. Cash machines will reopen tomorrow with a daily withdrawal limit. Greece is now set to default on a €1.6 billion loan repayment that's due tomorrow. Now for our top story today. KwaZulu-Natal is facing severe drought, with some parts of the province said to only have 2 months of water supply left. In efforts to conserve dwindling water resources, a water rationing program has been implemented. Cooperative Governments and Traditional Affairs believes that the program will reduce water production. As a result of this water reduction, less water will be supplied to municipalities, which will have a knock-on effect on consumers. The northern areas of eThekwini and southern areas of the province, which are supplied by Hazelmere Dam, are expected to be the worst affected. To tell us more, we're now joined in Durban by the KZN Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs spokesperson, Lennox Mabaso. Lennox, thank you for joining us today.
Good morning and good morning to the viewers.
I understand that the rationing system started last week. How have people in the province reacted to the fact that they will be having to deal with less water in the province? So how has that been going since last week?
Well, in fact, we have been very overwhelmed by the level of support that we are receiving from the people of KwaZulu-Natal since the pronouncement that effectively the province is in the middle of a serious drought crisis. We have become a very water risk province. Our people have heeded the messages coming as high as from our premiers, Premier Senzo Mkhunu, as well as the MEC for Kokta, who is a land function MEC responsible for water support in the province, as well as the entire executive. So people were observing that they are indeed heeding the messages that they need to conserve water. Indeed, the situation is very dire, such that it has necessitated that we institute mandatory water curtailments in order to control the water supply to various areas and make sure that we are able to have the current water that is available in our water sources, helping us to navigate the crisis until about the middle of October, when we are expected and we are informed by which is the date that we are informed by the weather experts that we are likely to receive the first set of rain. Indeed, we are in a crisis situation. So far, if I may give you a practical example, before the drought situation, in KZN, eThekwini and the Ilembe districts were receiving a total of about 400 milliliters of water a day. But that has dropped down dramatically. It's been reduced to about 30%. So which means that people have got to conserve water, and the water is being allocated now on a daily basis because of the crisis that we are facing.
Could you just tell us, Lennox, more about the 350 million rand emergency scheme that you're looking at?
Well, what we can indicate is that when of course, the drought situation was declared a disaster by our provincial executive, national government was approached to come on board and to assist, because it is not only the two regions of eThekwini and Ilembe that are in a drought crisis. The entire province is in drought. So we have various challenges in various towns. So we approached national government, and there was a speedy response from the Department of Water and Sanitation under the leadership of Minister Nomvula Monkonyane. They were able to provide an amount to the tune of 352 million. So that's the money that we are currently working with the national department to make sure that it is able to assist in the short-term interventions, such as the drilling of boreholes, the water tankering, the supply of water through water tankers, and other short-term structures. But the real challenge is that we have received below average rainfall for the past 2 years. So, which means that there's a challenge with water from the sources, which is the dam, because there's been poor rainfall due to the effects of climate change that we are beginning to feel. So that money, as much as we will be able to do what the league that we can be able to do in terms of short-term interventions, the situation requires every citizen to conserve water, to use water sparingly, and to make sure that all the public education and awareness that is currently being rolled out in the province in relation to the tips that people can apply in terms of conserving water, people are heeding that, and they are doing what they are supposed to do, because that's the only solution, because we do not have rains. We have the dams, but we do not have the rains to fill those dams until about October. And that's the gravity of the situation we face, and it requires everyone to understand that saving water is everybody's business. We must all put shoulder to the grindstone and make sure that we save water. There's a devastating impact on agriculture as well. Already over 30,000 cattle have perished. The crops have also perished. The farmers are feeling it because their yields are not productive. It's also having an impact. You know, in KZN we've got the sugarcane industry, which is a source of employment for a number of people. There are plants that are not functioning to the optimum because of the water challenges. So it requires that all of us come together and we make sure that we save water. And when we say every drop counts, it really counts for real now. So we need to make sure that we save water, otherwise we will be in a big disaster. So there are a number of lessons that we are learning from countries such as the US, the state of California. It's been in drought for a period of about 4 years. And you know, the only way that they've managed to address the situation is through people also playing their part. So people must stop irresponsibly irrigating gardens. If you are washing your car, use a bucket. Need to make sure that you wash your car on the lawn, for instance, so that while you wash your car, the water can also irrigate your garden. The time for long showers is gone, so you need to take short showers. So the number of tips that are being dished out, various municipal bills to households, people need to read that and make sure that they implement that at the household level.
Lennox, just quickly, I think you've addressed most of the issues there, but households are being given a set amount of water that they can use every day. Just tell us how much of water will every household be able to use, the areas affected, and how will people be notified if their areas are going to be affected? Just very quickly to wrap this up.
Well, on daily basis, like today we'll be issuing a statement advising people about the available amount of water that will be dished out this week, in particular to the areas of Ilembe as well as to eThekwini, some parts of the eThekwini areas, which are worst hit. But the most important thing is that we also are publishing a rationing calendar, the times and the dates. The most important thing is that the bulk suppliers are issuing the amount of water which is less than 30% than what we're normally receiving before the drought on a weekly basis. So what's important is that people must conserve what is available, because if they finish that, you're only going to have to wait for the next day before you can have access to water. That is very concerning, because you know there are a number of
province is suffering with a problem of severe drought. That was Lennox Mabaso, the spokesperson of the KZN Cooperative Governments and Traditional Affairs spokesperson there, just putting us in the picture with the problem KwaZulu-Natal is facing. Now, like we've just mentioned, KwaZulu-Natal has imposed water rationing supply in efforts to conserve dwindling water reserves. The province is currently facing a severe drought. Let's take a look at some of your comments coming in on this topic. Hasmita says water shedding is a reality in Durban North as the Hazelmere Dam drops by 1% every 4 days and the dam is sitting at 30% overall hectic. Then the next tweet coming in over there says, will the people of Durban please save water and use less as possible and report any burst pipes or any wasting of water to the department? Yes, please, that is definitely something residents should be doing. Kasim says, as we all know that Durban surrounding areas are in water crisis, please send to people in the Durban and surrounding areas that's a warning on Twitter, a plea to please use warning sparingly, warning people of the water crisis there. And there you can see some pictures coming in on Twitter. And Baker says, saving water, your employees sleeping on duty while precious water is wasted away. Hashtag Durban, hashtag drought. Those are your tweets coming in this morning. Please remember to send them to @SABC Newsroom. Now, today's pick of the day comes from Dan Space 77. That doesn't look good at all. Hashtag SpaceX, hashtag CRS7. Yes, he's talking about that space explosion, and there's an amazing picture coming in from our social media networks this morning. Well, let's now take a look at the front pages from around the globe, starting in Europe. The Times says submachine guns have been smuggled into Britain, raising fears of a jihadist attack similar to the atrocity in which it is feared that more than 30 British holidays makers were killed in Tunisia. Moving to New York, the International New York Times reports that Greece will also restrict the withdrawal and transfer of money. The Prime Minister said escalating tensions and uncertainty over the financial crisis that some analysts say could have global ripples. And finally, on the US today, you can see rainbow flags were in full force yesterday in many major cities across the US, celebrating the annual Gay Pride parades. Supercharged by the historic Supreme Court ruling extending marriage rights to same-sex couples in all 50 states. Yes, definitely good news coming from the US there. Now, let's take a look at what's happening around the country today. We start in Johannesburg, where the trial of the 4 accused in the murder case of Mozambican national Emmanuel Sithole is expected to resume in the Magistrates Court. Then in KwaZulu-Natal, a 35-year-old serial rapist is expected to apply for bail in the Impangeni Magistrates Court together with 2 others. The man allegedly raped 6 women. And in Cape Town, a man from Hanover Park is expected to appear in the Athlone Magistrates Court for allegedly beating his 2-year-old daughter to death. The toddler was declared dead in hospital on Friday. It's time to take a break. We'll be back shortly.
Hi, just brushing up on my party. We are going to make it number 12, official. Let me teach you a quick word.
Yeah.
Quite a star. A woman who has mastered the art of dancing in high heels. It's up and
warm up the dance floor with a bottle of Sedgwick's original Old Brown for only $24.99 and help make party South Africa's 12th official language. Tops at Spa. Shake things up.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. Now, last year, South Africa saw the number of matrics who passed mathematics drop to 53.5%. Now, as we are also getting closer to this year's end-of-year exams, the question remains, how is South Africa going to see a marked improvement in both numeracy and literacy performance in our classrooms? The Xenix Foundation, an independent trust that has been working since 1995 to provide the equality of learning in maths and science and language, believes firmly that more writing in our classrooms will boost not only math and science performance, but overall performance. To tell us more, we're joined by the CEO of the Xenix Foundation, Gail Campbell, today. Gail, I thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
If we can just start by looking at what statistics are suggesting to us. Over the last years, writing in classrooms overall has definitely declined. Why is this, and what should we be doing differently in terms of the pass rates that we're seeing in some of our most important subjects?
Well, for us, first of all, language is about 4 things. It's about listening, it's about speaking, reading and writing. And in all the work we've been doing in schools and all our research, we've been seeing that there's been more focus on oral tradition, like oral language, that's speaking and listening, more so than the reading and writing. Now, a lot of attention over the last couple of years has been placed on reading, but as a foundation, more and more we're seeing the need to focus on writing as well. if we look at a benchmark, we're saying children should be doing some form of writing in class every day. And in some of the schools we've been working at that, it's as low as 3 or 4 pieces in a month. Yeah.
So talking then specifically about writing in classrooms, we've got a unique situation in South Africa where we've got so many languages that come into play when we are teaching our children. Are we then saying that you should be writing in your home language, your second language? I mean, how do we actually break this down?
Well, both. In foundation phase, that's the first 3 years of formal schooling, you learn in your mother tongue, your home language that you come into school with, and then all children learn a second language. For children whose mother tongue is not English or Afrikaans, they have to take on English as a second language. And we're saying children need to write in both their mother tongue and the second language as well.
And this doesn't mean then writing more, because we're looking at maths and science and numeracy. How is that going to improve those type of subjects that we struggle with?
Okay. Well, while mathematics or numeracy is about numbers, you do need language. If I just make it very simple, some of the work that children need require language skills. Take a simple mathematics problem that you'll find in the annual national assessment. They'll ask a child, if John had 12 oranges and he had 3 friends, how many oranges does each friend need? Exactly. So the child has to have the language skill to actually do the mathematics as well, in addition to the number skills.
And where does it start? I mean, are we looking at then really having to introduce more writing even before children get to grade 1? Is that possible?
It's you have to scaffold it. It first starts with reading, and reading comes out of learning through phonics, learning your ABCs, if I'm looking at English, and then writing scaffolds on from reading.
So we know that you've launched a pilot project in around like 70 schools, and of course this is what your results have shown to you, that more writing is needed. What is the work that you do with the Department of Education, and how are they going to be implementing any of your suggestions?
Well, let me just talk briefly about that pilot project. We found when we got teachers to do not only more writing, but also more quality writing, that's the length of writing, we found a positive correlation with learners' literacy and their numeracy. We have shared those results of the pilot that we did in 70 schools, and what we're seeing now in the CAPS curriculum and in the lesson plans that the department is providing to teachers, there is more focus on written work in the classroom.
All right. We know that the National Development Plan, there are a certain number of education targets that we need to meet. Just let's focus on some of those targets. Are you aware of them?
Yes. I mean, the target is that we need to double the number of young people who pass with maths and science at grade 12 level. But that's because maths and science at grade 12 are gateway subjects. That gives you access into maths and science related careers, and that then has a link to our economy. And of course, to double, you first have to get more learners taking mathematics. And so when in grade 9, when children have to make the choice between maths literacy and mathematics, we would like to see more and more children taking mathematics to help us double those passes in grade 12.
We also have to keep in mind that the teachers, it's not only the kids, that are struggling. The teachers often have to teach in a language that is their second language. And your program has been involved with giving certain educational manuals and textbooks to teachers in their own languages. Just tell us about that and the importance. Is there enough focus on actually giving the teachers the right tools to help children in the classrooms?
Well, Yes, there has been a focus on providing teachers with lesson plans. The guide that we provided was encouraging teachers to code switch in class to help children understand both the maths and science terms in English as well as in their home language. And we did this guide. We took all the mathematics and science concepts that are in the curriculum up to grade 12, and we looked at the equivalent to English in the African languages, so that would help teachers code switch. And then a child, if you were looking at a concept like trigonometry, what was the equivalent in African languages? Yeah.
What is next for the Xenix Foundation?
Well, we're involved in a very exciting literacy project at foundation phase. What's exciting for us is that we're focusing on building vocabulary in reading, and then before we get to writing. And it's exciting because we're working with building the vocabulary of the teachers as well as the learners who are teaching in foundation phase.
Well, Gail, we thank you for the work that you're doing. Gail Campbell, she is the CEO of the Xenix Foundation, saying that we need to write more in our classrooms, and that's how we'll see more matrics pass maths and science, which is definitely something our country needs. Well, David Cameron said that Britain is united in shock and grief as it emerged the British death toll in the Tunisian attack will rise above 30. Let's take a look at some of the tweets that you've been sending in commenting on that tragic event. Please remember to send us your views to Twitter at SABC Newsroom. We can see there Dr. Chan says, the worrying thing about an attacker is that he does not fit any stereotype of a suicide bomber. Now who should be monitored? Hashtag Tunisia attack. Maggie says, sad news and thoughts and prayers for loss of life in the Tunisia attack for extended family and friends. She says life needs to be valued, not destroyed. Yes, your thoughts coming in on the Tunisia attack. Then the next tweet says, no terrorism, peaceful world. That's Islam, not killing people. Saying no to terrorism over there. So hashtagging Tunisia attack. Shane says radio just reported that there are now 600 British police working on the Tunisia attack. 600, why? We'll have a look at those reports coming in. Now today's tweet of the day comes from Joan Collins saying, I'm so sad about the murder of innocent people sunbathing on the beach. My heart aches for them and their grieving relatives. Hashtag Tunisia. Remember, you can still be sending all your thoughts to @SABC Newsroom. Let's take a look now at what's happening on our Newsroom Facebook page. Today you'll see that the DA has called for the dismissal of former Police Minister Nathi Mthethwa, saying he was the political head presiding over the department during the Marikana tragedy. Then hundreds of armed police patrolled the streets of Tunisia's beach resorts yesterday, and the government said it will deploy hundreds more inside hotels after Islamist militant attack that killed 39 foreigners, mostly Britons. And the head of the International Monetary Fund yesterday said that she was disappointed in the stalemate over talks to prevent Greece from defaulting on its IMF debt, but said the euro is in a strong position to respond effectively to the developments. More news on our Facebook page over there. Just remember you can follow us on facebook.com/SABC Newsroom. You can also pay a visit to our SABC website. That's www.sabc.co.za/news. So it's time now to take a break. We'll be back shortly.
Didier Drogba, a footballer from Ivory Coast, was named as the third most influential celebrity in Africa.
Where I saw him display, he's a very nice player. He always make an impact.
Drogba donated his $5 million endorsement fee to the construction of a hospital in Abidjan.
Well, there are some lesser-known football stars in the continent that you haven't met.
Really?
And are deserving of more attention.
I think we will do better.
The Journal, every Saturday at 1:30 on SABC News.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom on SABC News. Let's just have a look at the stories making headlines today. Well, we'll be back with that shortly. We go on with the next story. Africa's first private satellite will be launched next year. Lawyers will be back to headlines. Sorry for that technical difficulty. Well, the headlines for today. Most mine workers in Marikana say an international court must probe the events of August 2012. Lawyers for the injured and arrested Marikana miners are looking at the possibility of filing civil claims against the government. Miners and families affected by the violence that claimed 44 lives at Marikana nearly 3 years ago met their legal representatives yesterday. This followed the release of the Farnham Commission of Inquiry's report last week. The second round of wage negotiations in the gold sector are set to resume today. Last week, unions tabled their demand, while gold procedures tabled the principles of an economic and social sustainability compact. Labour unions criticised the Chamber of Mines for tabling financial statements, which they say were riddled with errors during the wage talks in the gold mining sector. Unions want entry-level wage increases of up to 80%. And Greek banks will be closed for the week, and tourists have been warned to take enough cash for the duration of their stay. The country's financial crisis deepened at the weekend when bailout talks between the government and foreign leaders broke down. The European Central Bank then froze funding support to Greece's banks, and the government announced the closing of the banks last night. Cash machines will reopen tomorrow with a daily withdrawal limit. Greece is now set to default on a €1.6 billion loan repayment that's due tomorrow. Well, we're going to try that Skype interview again. For the last 11 days, a group of ambitious engineering students from the University of Johannesburg have attempted to set a solar-only land speed and world record. The sub-Saharan journey of Ilanga 2 has already crossed the border into Namibia and Botswana. And joining us now to give us an update on how this adventure has been going, we are joined on Skype from Gaborone by the Team and Technology Manager of the UJ African Solar Drive, Warren Herter. Warren, can you hear me clearly now?
Yes, I can. Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If we can start with, you guys are basically already in Botswana, heading back to South Africa. How has the journey been so far, and what have some of your major challenges and also triumphs been?
It's been absolutely fantastic. The landscapes that we've seen have been fabulous. We visited a number of schools with the solar car. We've been testing it along the way, driving it on all the national roads. Of course, in a test, we've had a few problems. We've had a few things break along the way, but it's been absolutely fantastic. The car's been running smoothly, and we've met some very interesting people along the way.
How close are you to setting that solar-only land speed and world record?
Well, that's still in the pipeline. We want to get the car running to a point where we can really push for the Sasol Solar Challenge and the events that are coming up. And then that is the next thing on the cards. We want to see if we can start pushing records and start doing some more interesting things with the vehicle and a number of other vehicles that we're building along the way as well.
Warren, you said you've been visiting schools, communities. Just tell us what kind of reaction have you been getting from these different communities? And do you think by visiting schools you're definitely inspiring kids to go into engineering when they see what can be done?
Well, the reception has been fantastic. Seeing these young children's eyes just light up when they see this car, and even going to the high schools and showing what you can do if you just focus on your maths and science. It's really been a fantastic platform to promote science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And we want to just keep doing it more and more. We're connecting with different universities and different communities as well to see how we can collaborate on projects and see how we can take this technology further and into communities.
When are you expecting to be back in South Africa, Warren? And what is, once you do arrive, what happens from there on out?
Well, sadly, today is our last day. We'll be driving from Gaborone to Johannesburg. We'll be back in Joburg this evening. Once we get back, we're going to start looking at the car again, seeing how we can change things, take what we've learned from this trip, not only from the car, but from the communities that we've engaged with, see how we can go back there and start bringing the technology to these communities.
Well, Warren, I thank you so much for giving us an update. We're very happy to hear that everything's been going so well. We're definitely excited to have you back in South Africa, and I'm sure we'll be doing another interview with you once you're back here in the country.
Definitely, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Good luck. Please say hello to everyone there. Well, now, Africa's first private satellite will be launched next year, but scientists and engineers will not be behind this bold move, as the project is being empowered by a group of South African high school girls. The project will be run by the Meta Economic Development Organization, also known as MEDO. Now, MEDO founder and CEO Judy Sandrock, together with two learners who are part of this project, join us today from our Cape Town studio. Judy and ladies, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us from Cape Town.
Fabulous. Thank you for having us on the show.
Judy, if I could just start with you. Why your decision to get involved with this project, to specifically also pull together learners from schools to be a part of a great initiative like this?
What we did is that last year we bought the satellite and the launch, and what we didn't have was a payload for the satellite. So we thought what we would do is open it up as an opportunity to high school learners to be able to design that payload. What it is it's a project to really inspire high school learners to take up maths and science, a little bit like your previous clip on the solar car. Why not actually be able to have projects that can go into space?
What is the target date of the launch exactly, Judy? And if you can just put us into the picture of what will be happening up until that date working with the learners.
Terrific. The target date is a second quarter of next year, 2016. And what we need to do is that we need to be able to send the completed satellite to the US. It's being launched in the Mojave Desert. So we need to send that early next year in 2016. So the program to date is that we're having a number of one-day workshops called space prep workshops, where we start working with different electronics. We then go on to week-long boot camps. We're having one in October during the school holidays and another one in December. And then what we'll be having is that during December, actually putting together the final design and structure of that payload for the satellite.
Now, I know we're joined this morning, of course, by two of the learners that will be working on this project. If we can just talk to, I think, Iman.
Yes.
Hi, Iman. Thank you for taking time off of your exams this morning. I hope everything's been going well with the exams. Just tell us.
We just finished exams and got some of our results back, so
okay.
Yeah.
That's great news. Iman, tell me, are you excited to be part of this project, and what are you most looking forward to?
Yes, I am. It's a really cool project. The fact that we actually get to work hands-on with the stuff is like, in physics you just get to see the drawings of the stuff, but now we actually get to do the stuff. So it's actually really nice to actually get to actually do it, to see what all the drawings were actually about.
Mamina, if I can ask you the same question, what are you the most excited about? And is this something that you think in your future could play a big role in what it is that you want to do growing up?
For me, I think this is very exciting, and I really look forward to it. The most exciting thing for me was actually building what we did, and I'm not really sure what I want to be one day, but this is a field that I would consider going into.
Great stuff. Judy, if I can come back to you, you say this is not only a once-off project, this is something that you may be looking at doing next year again. Would you be doing it any differently, or do you think you would learn from this year's project to see how you're going to be doing it in future years to come?
Certainly, Anine, this is a 5-year program. So what we've got is satellite launches scheduled over the next 5 years. We certainly know that we're going to be learning a lot while we're going. So probably the program is going to morph and change a little bit as we go on, because we'll need to do some continuous improvement as we learn by doing. Also, the thing is that what happens is that technology advances all the time. So what we'll find is that probably the payload that we have for the first satellite is going to look old-fashioned by the time we get to number 5 or number 6.
Yes. And then just, Judy, what is your message to learners that you would like to see get involved in the future, taking part in exciting programs like these?
My message really is that 80% of the jobs and opportunities in the future are going to be STEM related. That is science, technology, engineering, and maths related. So I would really encourage high school learners to focus on maths and science, because it really opens up such a world of opportunities later on. I know you don't have to decide at 16 what you're going to retire from at 60, but at least have 80% of the world as your oyster.
And where can learners get a hold of you if they want to become part of this, Judy?
The easiest thing is through our website, which is medo.co.za. That's medo.co.za.
There we go. medo.co.za, Judy, and together with the learners joining us this morning, thank you very much, ladies, and all of the best with the project.
Thank you very much, Anine.
That's Judy Sandrock, CDO of Medo, talking about that exciting satellite with great young minds that will be launching next year. That's definitely something to be looking out for. Now, it is estimated that 1.3 billion tons of urban waste is created across the globe every year, which is set to increase to 2.2 billion by the year 2025 if sustainable development is not put in place soon. In South Africa, the amount of waste produced is a great concern as landfills are reaching their full capacity. According to reports, South Africa generates about 1.8 million tons of waste a year, with 90% going to landfills. Last week, the CSIR hosted the annual Sustainability Week, where a number of organizations spoke on ways to make our economy greener. The need to reduce waste, reuse and recycle has never been greater. And joining us today in studio is Director of Recycling and Economic Development Initiative of South Africa, Stacey Davidson. Well, Stacey, thank you for coming in today.
Morning, Anine. Thanks.
Quite a mouthful. But these figures are worrying. Why are we sitting, when it comes to waste, with the situation that we're sitting in currently, looking at South Africa?
Well, I think it's really about the way we view waste. I think our economies are really driven towards a linear economy where we are manufacturing goods, where we're extracting resource, manufacturing goods, consuming these goods and then throwing it away. And at Redisa, what we are saying is through our waste into worth concept is that waste is not in fact waste. It's a commodity of the future. And sustainability and driving circular economies is not a priority. It's inevitable. The one thing we do know, like death, that there definitely will come, we also know that our resources will definitely run out. And Redis has done a few calculations just taking into account the number of resources we have, the size of the earth, and we estimate that we have about 347 years left of extracting resource, which tells us that we don't have much time. So we need to be looking at ways to extract value from that which we're throwing away, because waste will be the only place where we will be getting our resources from in the future.
what you've mentioned now, is this thing when we talk about circular economies, is that an example? And if we look at a country, for instance, like India, with the population there, we see cities actually developing around the fact that their work is to recycle and reuse the waste of major cities. I mean, is that something South Africa should really consider, and how do we do that looking at a circular economy?
Well, absolutely, and I think we shouldn't ignore the progress we have made as South Africa. South Africa is the first country in the world to have, in fact, published legislation called the Rhodesia Tire Waste Plan, which is exactly that. It is a plan which looks to driving a circular economy within the tire industry. And we're pioneers in the world. There is no such other plan in the world. Our CEO at this point in time is, in fact, in Europe. We've been appointed to the Advisory Council for the European Union on circular economies. So South Africa is viewed as the experts on circular economies. And what we've in fact done is we've in fact taken a tire, which was a huge liability to our society, and over the past 2 years we've developed an infrastructure which allows for those tires to be collected and extract value. And to date we've moved over 2 years we've moved over 125,000 tons of tires, which is equivalent to about 12.5 million tires. So in a short period of time, if you apply a model which is focused on extracting value and generating value and driving out socioeconomic goals, you are able to in fact introduce a circular economy and derive out results far quicker than what you're seeing in India, where it's loosely organized. What you have is a bunch of collectors. So you have lots of people who are collecting waste as an opportunity to earn an income.
Exactly.
But there isn't a way to incorporate it and extract the value out of the waste the way you're seeing in South Africa today with the tire waste.
I'm very happy that you mentioned the waste tire industry. What more can we be doing? What other industries do we see that there is potential, and how do we actually implement something in making the most of that?
Well, if we look at South Africa, for example, the Rhodesia concept is not limited to tires. The concept is across all waste streams. In South Africa, we have 38 waste streams, tires being the first to have been approved and the first to have been implemented. We at Rhodesia have prepared a plan which looks at the unserviced areas in the country. We do know that about 44% of households in the country are not being serviced in terms of their waste collection. This is an opportunity for us to drive waste collection, clean our environments, create the jobs, stimulate local economies at the level where it's required in those areas, especially the rural and informal settlements. And through this model, that's what you will be doing. You will be, in fact, dealing with the waste problem. So we will be diverting from landfill, and we'll be setting up systems and infrastructure to, in fact, extract value. So this is not really as much an environmental question or imperative. It's very much an economic one.
Yes.
Because if we want economic growth and we use the traditional methods, we are going to, in fact, see a loss in GDP as a result of pollution-related impacts. And we've seen that in China. China lost 9% of GDP as a result of environmental impacts. So it's imperative that when we do look into waste management, we look at it in a far more holistic way. How can we influence the product design for recyclability? Not just about collecting, because it's important that the product that's being manufactured is in fact able to be recycled easily and can produce resource efficiency.
When it comes to waste management, do we see enough? I mean, this should ideally be a partnership between government and private sector. Where is it standing in South Africa, and how do we need to see this, to view this as a 50-50 kind of like buy-in from both sectors, or is there much more opportunity for private sector? But I'm guessing, like you've said, if we really want to change our economic situation, government should be on top of this ball, right?
I think what's happening in South Africa is very unique, and it is also pioneering. Here you do have a win-win for all. You have a perfect scenario in the tire industry where Rhodesia, who is the non-profit organization, is able to collaborate with both private industry and drive out their objectives of profit making, and government and drive out their objectives of job creation, small business development, and remediation, environmental remediation. So I think it's just about understanding that, the public-private partnerships which existed in the past looked at equity and debt sharing for government and private sector. This is a collaboration. It's saying that let the independent body implement and drive out the objective. So what we've done is private sector transfer their liability to us, the tyre industry, for R2.30 per kilogram of tyre that they manufacture. We then deliver on that liability by producing the infrastructure to deal with the waste product. And in return, we also collaborate with government to say, legislate so that everybody will participate, and so that we can ensure that whilst we're building this infrastructure, we're creating the jobs that are so sorely needed by our society, and we're driving small business development, which also drives job creation. So, and of course, in return, because you are utilizing waste now as a resource, you have economic drivers as well and environmental remediation. So it's a beautiful collaboration which makes everybody win. Industry now can focus on driving profits whilst not having to worry about the environmental impact because they have the insurance policy, and that's Redisa.
Stacey, definitely such an important issue and a real opportunity here for a lot of South Africans. Stacey Davidson from Redisa joining us today. Well, an unmanned American Falcon 9 rocket broke apart in flames minutes after lifting off from Cape Town Carnival in Florida yesterday. The rocket was in the process of sending a cargo ship to the International Space Station. Let's just take a look at some of your tweets coming in on that topic. Remember, you can send your views on Twitter to @SABC Newsroom. Praveen says, after Falcon 9 failure, it's not rocket science. Feels like the right phrase to describe an easy task. Yes, very clever over there. Then Ankit says, it is through creating, not possessing, that life is revealed. And that is a quote over there, also using the hashtag SpaceX. Chuckster says, we went to the moon 45 years ago and now we can't even launch a rocket that won't blow up. Something wrong here, hashtag SpaceX. Well, I'm sure this was the exception and not the norm. Then hashtag SpaceX says, has a backlog of nearly 50 missions and I thought I was the only one running behind. Emily says, we've clearly lost some resources that we need to recover, so we'll do that and we'll get on with it. That is a quote from a quote that she's using on Twitter over there. Now, Newsroom is broadcast live from our studios in Auckland Park in Johannesburg every weekday morning between 9 and 10 o'clock. There's a stream live on YouTube at the same time, with the show available on demand on our YouTube channel. This is SABC News. You've been watching Newsroom, where we love it in the morning.
SABC News seeks to be the biggest, the most extensive and diverse news organization on the continent. Our mission is to provide accurate and credible news and current affairs programming throughout the day. We are committed to covering every part of the continent. We reflect the world to Africa and Africa to the world. SABC News, Africa's news leader. Now available throughout the continent.
A woman is way more likely to be killed by a lover or her husband than she is by anyone else.
Christopher Panayuto, accused of orchestrating the murder of his wife, Jade, is to apply for bail in a bid to get out of the overcrowded cells and escape the samp and beans diet.
Here is a man that's accused of killing his wife. He's worried about the special diet. He's worried that he's eating beans and samp there.
Sadly, a fan was also reportedly killed in a scuffle with police during the pitch invasion.
I'm surprised that the city press is going with the picture of the celebration instead of showing us the picture of the person that has been killed.
Watch Media Monitor with me, Alicia Jali, Sundays at 9 a.m. only on the SABC News channel.
Welcome to AM News here on SABC News Channel 404.
The people who also should be concerned are the people who voted for people of that ilk.
South Africa is indeed a unique country, and South Africa has a democracy